Good afternoon, everybody, and you're really, really welcome to our final session of the Built Environment Virtual Career Series. And we're absolutely delighted to welcome ORS to host our final session. I'm delighted to welcome Aoife O'Flaherty, who's HR and Talent Coordinator, Rachel Murray, who is Head of Employee Engagement, and Deirdre McShane, who is Building Surveying Team Lead and also a DQIT graduate. So we're absolutely delighted to welcome all of you here today, guys. Thanks so much again for participating. If anybody's any questions, pop them into the chat. Also, there'll be numbers of students watching this on demand. So if you miss anything, feel free just to click back on the registration link, and you'll be able to see the presentation in full. And if you miss any of the email addresses that the guys might give out, we'll send them on to you as well as the presentation, if that's okay with Aoife, Rachel, and Deirdre. So without further ado, we'll welcome you guys again, and we're looking forward to your presentation and the graduate opportunities that are happening at ORS at the minute. I know it's exceptionally busy, so thanks again for your time.
Thanks, Anthony. So yeah, we're ORS anyway. So my name is Aoife. As Anthony said, I am HR and Talent Coordinator. So just to give you kind of an overall view of ORS, so we're a multidisciplinary building consultancy. We've over 30 years experience. So we offer design, planning, management advice that is supported by expert guidance in energy efficiency. We have a team of highly skilled designers, consulting engineers, planners, scientists, and surveyors. So we have 9 different departments across the team or the company. So we have civil and structural engineering, project management, infrastructure, health and safety management, building surveying. So Deirdre McShane is the team lead for building surveying, science certifier, fire safety, energy management, and environmental. So these are just a couple of the clients that we have previously worked with and are currently working with, just to give you an overview. So what are we looking for? So we're always kind of on the lookout for anyone who would be able to kind of join these areas. So at the core of our culture and our values, we're always looking for people to bring out the best and help contribute to our client success. So civil and structural engineering, construction and project management, health and safety management, fire engineering, energy engineering, and environmental sciences. So when you come come join us in ORS, we do have a mentoring system in place for graduates. So you would be mentored by an associate and director. We do have cross-team buddy system. We have opportunities to cross skill in other departments. So let's say you joined one of the departments and you had a look at the other ones and you wanted to have a kind of feel for them, that opportunity would be there for you. In terms of development, we have induction pack, we have yearly formal reviews, we have a career building package, which Rachel will be going through with us shortly. And we do have open door policy, so you should feel as comfortable talking to fellow graduates as you would with the managing director within the company. We do have a flexible working policy. We have casual dress code, we have a remote setup. So we will be showing you a short video later on in this presentation of what our remote working kind of looks like. In terms of continuous professional development, we do have weekly internal CPD events. We have a postgraduate in professional engineering through Engineers Ireland for graduates. And Rachel is now going to go through a few more things in terms of career development.
Thanks, Aoife. So look, as Aoife touched on there, we have a career builder in place that has a number of 3 different areas that we work on in terms of performance and moving through our career builder. So this is just one example of that. So Alison Dale joined us as an undergrad in 2014 into our health and safety team. And then in 2016, she was appointed as team leader. And then we also supported her through her master's in environmental management in 2020. And she was also then made associate director then in 2020. So we have a number, say, for example, our managing director actually started with us as a graduate. And we have another director who is over our building surveying. He joined us as a graduate and came right through our career builder then to be appointed director in 2021. So that is done as part of your annual performance appraisal. So, I mean, anyone can opt to do a performance appraisal throughout the year if they feel like, you know, they've taken on extra responsibilities, or their experience has grown throughout the year, or different projects, or whatever it may be. But generally they're done on an annual basis. And the Career Builder has 3 different parts to it. So the first part is a 360 survey. So 5 people would be picked out across the team. It's an anonymous survey. So it could be somebody on your team, it could be your team lead, and it could be someone from another team that you work with closely on a project. So they'd fill out various different questions, and then the feedback from that, then you would go through with your team lead at your performance appraisal. Then you have the actual general performance appraisal piece, which is more, you know, what have you gained experience in, what do you feel like you need more training in, maybe, and where do you want to go then over the next year coming. And then the final piece then is the actual Career Builder itself. So it's done basically on a grade system. Usually graduates would come in on a grade 2, and then you have senior staff, and then associate level would be grade 8. And then director then would be when you get to grade 11. So there's different competencies and business skills that we would expect from somebody based on your grade. So those competencies would be anything from decision making, performance, relationships, technical skills, you know, tender writing, business development. There's a whole range of different areas. So you go through that at your performance appraisal, and, you know, both yourself and your team would give examples of when you've actually you've performed under those competencies. And then that's how people go through the different grades. So that's our Career Builder, and that was actually designed by our managing director as part of his MBA. Sorry, how do I move on to the next? Oh, here we go. Okay, so the next part then this is something that we've introduced this year. So this is a CPD certificate in professional engineering from Engineers Ireland that all of our graduates will go through. So there's 6 different modules to it. There's time management and organizational skills, communication and presentation skills, introduction to project management, technical writing. So all the things of the day-to-day stuff that we need you to know that you mightn't do as part of your course will be through this CPD. So it's 6 full days. You obviously do that as part of your working hours. It's over 6 months, and all of our graduates will go through this as well. And you'll obviously get a certificate at the end, and it's run through Engineers Ireland and TUD. Then finally, or the rewards framework then. So this is something that we introduced as part of our cultural development team, which I'll also talk about in a minute. But the rewards framework, again, is tied into your grade through the Career Builder. So based on whatever grade you are, there's various different benefits that you can avail of. And they would be pension contribution, health plan, you can opt to get additional annual leave, and you can also get a gym or a golf membership. And obviously then, as you move up the grades, they become more valuable. And then the work environment. So I know Aoife touched on it, like we have a hybrid remote working model. So we're not asking anyone to return to the office. However, we do have 5 office locations throughout Ireland where people can use as a base, and you can come there whenever you want. So it's like our culture is all about trust and autonomy, and, you know, you can manage your own day. If you want to work from home, you can do that. Obviously, there's certain instances with the guys that they have to be on site, but, you know, you can be at home working, or you can use any of our office locations. So that's our hybrid work. And our flexible working as well is something we introduced through our cultural development team, which means that from a Wednesday to Friday, you can opt to start work anytime from 7:30 till 10 o'clock, and obviously finish up or start or finish early or late. And then we have the option of a reduced 4-day working week as well. We have things like a employee recognition award, which is really a huge part of our values as well. It's all tied into our company values, and they're done on a quarterly basis. People are nominated, and then everybody votes on who they think is the winner or is rewarding. And then we have the innovation scheme, and then we have a huge amount of training opportunities as well. So that's coaching. I know Aoife mentioned all of our graduates are partnered up with an associate and a director for our mentoring. Then we have managerial training, we have technical training. We are one of only a small amount of CPD accredited employers with Engineers Ireland. And then obviously we have a huge amount of well-being and health training as well, which we push through our cultural development team. And then there's the personal development stuff as well. So that could be assertiveness training, leadership training, and building resilience as well. So there's a huge amount of opportunity for CPD within ORS. And so the Great Place to Work, that's something that we are, one of our biggest things that we're proud of at ORS. So over the last 3 years, we have been voted as a best place to work, one of the highest building consultancy over the 3 areas. So that's small, medium, and large. ORS comes out on top every single year. So and that's actually voted by our employees. So that, again, that's an anonymous survey. 80% of the marks go through the survey that is voted on by our employees. And then there's different areas that they also look at in terms of building trust, build autonomy, how we recognize people, what benefits are available. So we've won that the last 3 years, and we're going for it again now for a 4th year. So that will just, speak to the level of work that we put into our culture, and making, the flexible working and all the different things that we bring in. They're brought in through our cultural development team, who push all the 9 key practice areas for best place to work. And then finally, Ed, I know I've kind of talked about all of these, but I think, the huge, as part of our culture anyway, our huge selling points are obviously our hybrid work and, our CPD, all of the committees that you can get involved in. We have an ISO committee, we have our marketing committee, we have our cultural development team, and then our CPD committee as well, and a social committee, obviously. So there's a lot, if there's another area that you want to get involved with or you want experience in, anyone can join any of our committees as well. They usually meet bi-weekly, and they're actually tied into our career builder as well. So, and then obviously our autonomy and our flexibility are tied into that remote working. So that's a huge part of our culture, and it's something that we push every day, that everyone has. There's a huge level of trust between teams, and most of our stuff is done online, although we're really looking forward to it, and we love meeting people in the office. Like our hybrid working will remain in place, and I think it's one of our biggest selling points. And then finally, our graduate program is open for applications. We will send on all of we have a PDF on our overall graduate program as well, and we have a 1-pager which details bits of our culture pieces as well. So you can email Aoife and your CV, or if you have any questions, you can add me on LinkedIn, or Aoife on LinkedIn, or go on and check all of our social channels as well. And I think we're going to have the video of our hybrid work, in which we put together this year, and then Deirdre will be here to answer any technical questions as well that you have. Thank you.
Perfect, Rachel. Thanks so much. I'm just going to share that video now.
At ORS, we've been remote working for about 3 to 4 years now, and we operate under what we call a hybrid remote working arrangement. So what that means is that all of our staff use their homes as a base, and then they're free to use any of our 4 offices as they see fit.
My ideal week is made up of a couple of days in the office, a couple of days working from home.
ORS has a flexible day, which means we can manage our time during the day and still work during business hours.
We're constantly, communicating with each other on Teams. We're constantly checking in with each other.
I get to spend less time sitting in traffic and more time looking after my health and making the most of days like this.
At ORS, we truly believe that remote or distributed work is the future of work, but more importantly, we have a very strong organisational culture that supports it.
Great. Where do I sign up? Thanks so much, guys. Brilliant presentation. Really interesting. I'm sort of struck by the career path chart that Rachel was displaying or using. I think it's really interesting because often we hear of just a graduate program, but then what happens after the graduate program? So Rachel, I think that will be really, really useful for students who are interested in applying to ORS to see potentially where their path might go. And obviously, it's really well mentored and structured. So I think that was probably unique in some of the presentations that we've seen. So that's really, really positive. Deirdre, you're here as a DKIT alumni, and we're delighted to have you back now. I do have some questions that I need to get through. The first question is, maybe Aoife can answer this firstly. In relation to the application process itself, is there psychometric tests involved? Is there an assessment centre involved? What does that process look like?
Yeah, good question. So we do have a profiling, which we do get people to answer. So it's just a questionnaire, and it doesn't indicate if, there's no, right fit for anything, but it just gives us an indication of what type of worker you are. So that's usually sent out after the interview process. So usually the interview process, you do a phone screening with myself, after we kind of discuss things, and I think you'd be a good fit for the role, I would put you forward for interview with either the team lead or the director of the company. And then after they go through that, you would either meet Rachel, who again is on the call here, so employee engagement, just to see if you'd be a good cultural fit. And then after that, you'd be asked to do the profiling, and then an offer would go out. So we don't kind of mess around with these 4 or 5 different interviews. It's quite straightforward.
Perfect. Cultural fit, obviously usually important then throughout the hiring process. Rachel, maybe you'll touch on this point. What you look for in a candidate then. So outside of the technical ability that they bring in, I'm just thinking of, values, personality. What's the ideal candidate look like to you, and what might they have done as part of their college experience or voluntary experience or part-time work? What does that look like in an overall package?
Yeah, I mean, cultural fit is the most important thing for us. It's, you can have, that's why we've brought that in, where I would come in and do that interview just on purely on the cultural fit basis. And that's just making sure that, people they've got great social skills, they've got great initiative. We're not looking for, obviously we don't expect a huge amount of experience, but it's the type of things that you involve yourself while you're in third level education, while you're, do you have a part-time job? What kind of things do you get involved in outside of that? Because the technical piece is there, and obviously we're there, we've got, a huge amount of experience where we can support you through that, but we really need people to be engaged into ORS. And as I say, our culture is the most important thing. That's why we have those committees, and we try and encourage everybody to get involved. And there's so many other different things that you can do, whether it's, making suggestions to improve innovation at ORS, or, our online suggestion box. They all go back to the cultural development team, and we all discuss it, so everyone has an input. And the other part of it is which I love the most, is every meeting that you go to, everything is assigned to somebody. There's actions, they don't just drop off, they actually happen. And if they don't happen, there's a reason given. So in terms of cultural fit, we're just looking for people who have drive, who have initiative, who are really engaged, who really want to get the experience and kind of hit the ground running. And then in terms of the technical piece and all of that follows, and that's all part of the onboarding piece, which is really down to myself and Aoife to make sure that, everybody gets what they need in terms of their onboarding and their training to be able to do the things that, come with the job.
Brilliant. And speaking about initiative and innovation, we'll go to Deirdre now. And Deirdre, as I said, delighted to have a DKIT grad back speaking to us today. So you graduated from Building Spain in, we won't say the year as you've said, but we'll just say you graduated from that course. So first question is, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you were a final year? Because you're preaching to probably final year students here now. And if you can reflect back to when you were in your final year, what would have been beneficial for you to know then, or you have known then that you know now?
Gosh, good question. I suppose what springs to mind is everything that you're learning now, what you're doing now, have done in the last 4 to 5 years, whichever route you've gone to get your degree. It's the foundation, it's the building blocks upon which you're going to build your career. That I suppose I didn't really appreciate it until I was in the job. And although you don't know everything on your first day or even your first 6 months, when you come across I suppose a new technical ability, to do with the job, you draw upon what you learned sitting in the classroom. That I really didn't appreciate that would be the case. So I say just take it all in now, and learn what you can, because it really is the building blocks for you to build, your career on, and to just to get you going.
Yeah, and I know one of the questions we often get here from a careers and employability perspective is, I'm unsure about what route to go. Do I stick with building surveying and follow the charter route, or maybe even interest in a different area, construction management, whatever it might be? Or what would your advice be to a student who is just a bit unsure at the minute? And that's probably 90% of students, to be honest, in their final year,
Yeah, very true. There's a lot going on in your final year. I'd say start looking at the likes of ourselves and see what we can offer. We have building surveyors, we have the building surveying team, obviously, but that's not to say there isn't other opportunities within within ORS to go down a different route. So start researching the likes of ourselves, see what's available. Just get an idea of where you're very keen in terms of what do you see as your key skills or interests in the course, and then start applying that to job specifications that are right there, to get a sense of where you want your path to follow.
So, and the final year project, I think, is fairly pivotal in making that decision, and you're nodding your head. I'm glad you are. So that final year project is really a key piece, isn't it?
It is, and it brings together, a lot of your learnings from the previous 4 or 5 years, for you to present this up at the end of year. In addition to, the 8 or 9 subjects that you're also doing, and your thesis as well. So yeah, the project is a massive culmination of everything you've learned, and you're putting it all together for that final final examination. So yeah, it is pivotal, and as I said, a culmination of everything you've learned over the years of the course.
Perfect. Maybe one for Aoife then, around what a good applicant looks like from the perspective of an application form, CV, whatever. Your recommendation on how a final year student might make themselves more attractive when in the initial application stage. So we've mentioned the final year projects. Is there anything else that you recommend the students focus in on?
Good question. I would say if you have a look at us on LinkedIn and figure out who's the director of the particular team you want to apply for, who's the team lead, what's the names of the people you're sending your CV to. Like, that's always a really good indication that they've done their research on the company. When I do conduct the phone screenings, again, anyone who asks loads of questions is always a good sign, and it's not just yes, no, this, that. Anyone who's done their research on the company and knows the ins and outs of the job spec that they've looked at, and knows the technical questions to ask on that, and who shows a bit of their background as well, that is not work related, something to do it, I don't know, talk about their thesis or talk about charity work or sports that they're involved in. As Rachel mentioned, like, we're all about culture as well. So kind of selling yourself as a person rather than your experience in terms of like technical and your qualifications. Just you as a person. Ask as many questions as possible, and always find out who you're actually applying to and what you're applying for.
Yeah, that's a really good message, and I hope students are listening to that, because researching the company is absolutely key. And as Deirdre said, you have so much on that final year that really probably need to focus in on less rather than more in relation to companies. So spend your time researching. Pick 5 or 6 that you're really interested in working with. Reach out to people like Aoife, Rachel, and Deirdre on LinkedIn. I'm sure they won't tell you no, I'm not here to help you, or we're too busy. And ask the questions to inform that ultimate decision. And it's not going to be the final crossing line for your career, because we all know careers are not linear. But to try and get the decision right on the first instance. And on that, Deirdre, if you can reflect back on maybe your first year as a graduate, or 2 years maybe, how was your performance measured, or how did you measure your own performance in relation to, okay, I know I'm getting on well here, or what did that look like for you? Because I think that's a question students often have, is if I go in here, what's going to happen if I do this wrong, or what if I'm not sort of able for the level of technical sort of skills that's required.
Yeah. Your first year or two is going to be very, very overwhelming, especially your first 6 months when you're bedding into a company and understanding their processes and how to do things. I mean, you know how to do things to a certain point, but then you have to understand the company's process and the way they do things. So that's a huge learning curve. And then you come to the technical side of it and increasing your skill and ability there. And really, it comes down to having that that buddy or mentor alongside you, that you shadow them for a couple of surveys or reports or whatever the scope is, and then slowly but surely you see that you're being sent out on your own. You're given a wider variety of technical projects and jobs to do, and I suppose that's your measure. You can see that your superiors and your peers can see that you have the ability. And you see the increase in the technical work that's coming your way, and you also see it from the client side as well. They'll come back, either they'll come back to you directly, or they'll come back to your supervisor or manager and say, look, good job has been done, and a good employer will let you know that, and that gives you more, I suppose, confidence in your ability as well.
Brilliant. And the final question then, one just popped in there. You probably heard it coming out. I do apologize. I thought I had the notification sound turned off. In relation to the client-facing element of your role, Deirdre, which can be, again, students can really, that can sort of, I'll be expected to engage with customers, and that can be a bit daunting for them.
Absolutely.
How did you overcome that initially? Because I know that if it's effectively you're selling a product, ultimately working with an organization like ORS. So how difficult was that transition? Or maybe not, maybe it was seamless, or maybe you've done something in DQIT during your time or part-time work that made that transition to being a customer facing role a bit easier.
For me, it was a gradual transition. I was behind the scenes at the start, but I was on site with my colleagues, and I could see how they interacted with the client on the ground. So you're there, but you're subliminally taking it all in, that when it does come to be your turn to be the one that speaks to the client directly and meet them on your own on site, you've already seen how it's done. So you're picking it up as you go, and then you won't actually even realize it. You're out in site and you are client facing before you know it, and you've subliminally picked it up, whether it's through email correspondence initially, and then just shadowing your colleague. You pick it up and you go from it there. And then you have the added element now during COVID times of meeting clients for the first time on Teams. And again, it's a gradual introduction with your colleagues, especially if you've been brought in on a project. And it's a gradual process. And like here in ORS, you get to shadow and be guided through it all until you have the confidence to pick it up and run with it yourself.
Brilliant. Guys, absolutely brilliant presentation. Really enjoyed it. I've learned so much about ORS myself. I knew who you were, but the scale, I think I've been taken back by, and I suspect the students probably will be the same. And a massive thank you again, just for because it was a bit lastminute.com, and you guys went out of your way to come along today and present. So we're absolutely delighted that you did that. The guys can reach out to any of you on LinkedIn, I'm sure, or they can drop you an email. If I know you'll provide that leaflet, which we'll put up on our Careers Connect platform, as well as the jobs. The closing date for the jobs was my question. Is there a closing date, or is it rolling recruitment?
I would say try and get it to us before Christmas, because after January, we're going to have millions of CVs coming in. So I'd say if you want to beat the queue, get them in to us before December.
So early application is advised.
Yeah.
And of course, Deirdre will say, thinking back to our own days, I wasn't even thinking of a job at Christmas. I was more focusing. Yeah, and that's an issue that I suppose there's great flexibility actually if you're pushing it out to Christmas, because a number of the graduate programs close off middle of October. So just for students to be aware of that's really important. So thanks very much for that. So Rachel, Aoife, and Deirdre, absolutely great to meet you all. Fantastic to have ORS here at our Built Environment Virtual Career Series. Thanks so much for your time, and fingers crossed the next time we do this, we'll have you in person in DQIT, and we'll be able to welcome Deirdre back properly as a graduate.
Look forward to it.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thanks,
No
everyone.
problem. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.